Hi, I'm Dr. Kiki Fehling. I'm a licensed psychologist and expert in Dialectical Behavior Therapy, or DBT. In this video, I want to introduce you to the biosocial theory of emotion dysregulation that we use in DBT. Emotion dysregulation is just a clinical term for having trouble managing your emotions. I intend to do a longer video on this topic because I find it really interesting. There's a lot of really fascinating research, but in this video, I'm keeping it short and sweet to help you understand yourself if you feel like you're a pretty emotional person, or if you have a loved one who struggles with emotions, to help you understand them. In DBT, we use the biosocial theory to understand how trouble with emotions develops. Emotion dysregulation is often associated with borderline personality disorder, or BPD, but people can struggle with emotion dysregulation and have trouble managing their emotions whether they have BPD or not. Let's break the theory down. The bio part of the biosocial model refers to the fact that some people appear to be biologically emotionally vulnerable. Emotional vulnerability has three parts. People might feel things more intensely than other people. They might feel emotions with more sensitivity or more easily than other people. Or when they feel emotions, they might feel them for a long time and have difficulty returning to baseline. There's some science that suggests that people biologically differ on those three categories of emotional experience. I'll say more about that in a moment, but for now, let's put a pin on it. The social part of the biosocial theory refers to the idea that some people in their childhoods experience chronic invalidation. Chronic invalidation is having the repeated experiences of being told that your inner experiences and emotions are wrong or bad or too much, inappropriate, or they just don't make sense. Chronic invalidation is very diverse. It includes, on one end, traumatic experiences like abuse or neglect, which behaviorally communicate that your internal needs don't matter. They often involve family messages or cultural messages that communicate to you that experiencing or expressing certain emotions aren't okay. Kind of like boys don't cry or girls don't get mad, or kind of other gender binary stereotypical messages. Chronic invalidation can also include what you might call benevolent misunderstanding, where there's just a mismatch between a child and their caregiver, where the child is more sensitive than the caregiver is, and so they don't understand kind of what's going on for the child when they're having intense emotions. It's also worth noting that chronic invalidation includes societal level stigmas. So an LGBTQ child might be chronically invalidated because of the homophobic and transphobic messages of their culture, and a neurodivergent or autistic person might be chronically invalidated by their ableist and neurotypical society. Again, I hope to talk about that more in the longer video. So we have the biological emotional vulnerability and the social chronic invalidation. What's worth noting is the biological vulnerability actually isn't inherently a problem. You can be emotionally sensitive and not have it cause you problems unless you are in a chronically invalidating environment. So it is the interaction between the bio and the social that causes trouble with emotions. To make this easier to understand, let's get specific. Imagine a sensitive child, maybe you were one, and the child is feeling an intense emotion in response to something that's happening in their environment, and they tell their caregiver. Their caregiver responds by saying, it's not that big a deal. Why are you so upset about it? The child, in turn, says, no, I am really upset. I'm confused. I'm feeling lots of things, lots of pain, lots of agitation. The caregiver, again, is I don't get it. What usually happens is as that child gets more and more invalidated and confused about this mismatch, they will escalate their emotional expression by yelling or saying they feel even worse than they actually feel, or maybe kind of acting out impulsively. Then that the caregiver takes more seriously and says, oh gosh, you are really upset. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Let me listen to you and help you now. So there's this kind of reinforcing of more and more intense emotional expression. Alternatively, what can happen is when the child feels this mismatch with the caregiver about their emotional expression, they might start just saying like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. Clearly this isn't a big deal. Let me kind of just buckle down and kind of get into myself. There can be a dissociation from emotion and a quieting down and a suppression of what you're feeling that then is reinforced by the environment because the caregiver's like, see, I told you, nothing's wrong. That causes its own problems because the child becomes someone who just starts ignoring their emotions or not learning to trust their internal experiences. So, in both of these two examples, a child grows up into an adult that has trouble understanding, feeling, and using their emotions. They might struggle with impulsive, explosive behaviors, as I described, or they might struggle with kind of suppressing and internalized behaviors. It's also not impossible for someone to kind of vacillate back and forth between explosive, impulsive behavior and suppressing, kind of dissociating behavior. So this is why the biosocial model is so important and why I wanted to share it with you. Because if you are an adult who struggles managing your emotions, whether you struggle with impulsive behaviors or kind of internalizing self-hatred stuff, you were once a child who struggled the same way, and the caregivers or community around you didn't support you in learning how to deal with your emotions or what was going on inside of you. This is why it makes sense that you struggle, and you're not alone. A lot of people struggle with emotions in this way. It's not a deficit or problem with you specifically. And in fact, as I said, emotional sensitivity can be a beautiful thing. It creates art, it creates social justice, it helps us connect and empathize with other people. Emotional sensitivity by itself is not a problem. So in DBT, we use this therapy to understand why we're having the emotional troubles we're having and to give ourselves some self-compassion. And we view it as kind of like a skills deficit. You were never taught how to understand, feel, and use your emotions. That's why DBT provides so many concrete coping skills to help you do those exact things. If you want to learn more about DBT skills, or anything that I've talked about in this video, definitely subscribe or check out the resources below. If you have any questions about the biosocial model, definitely feel free to comment them below, and I'll try to answer them in my longer video on the topic. For now, I hope this was helpful, and I hope I'll see you soon.